Hey you guys, welcome back, or welcome if you are new to this channel. Today's video is going to be my physical TBR, everything on my physical TBR. So I recently posted my October TBR, which is everything on the top shelf right here, minus a couple of books, which would be in my book haul, books outside my comfort zone. I'm not sure if that video will be going up before or after this. But today I have everything on my physical TBR, not including the books from that book haul book, because I don't want to be repetitive, and nothing on my October TBR. Again, don't want to be repetitive. But everything on my middle shelf is what's on my personal physical TBR. It's not as out of control because I've only recently rediscovered my passion for reading, and so I have a list of like 26 or 27 books on my physical TBR outside of everything else. So realistically, there's probably close to like, probably like 55 books on my physical TBR, but that's fine. Today we're gonna be talking about everything on my middle shelf, essentially. So if you're interested in seeing the books that are currently on my physical TBR, chatting about it in the comments below, whatever it might be, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my YouTube channel and you like bookish content, I would love if you'd consider subscribing before moving on. I do also have a beauty YouTube channel, which I'll leave linked below in case you're interested in beauty content. Check that out. Other than that, let's just get into everything on my current physical TBR. Okay, you guys, should we just work our way left to right? We can just start with this book right here. Some of these books I've definitely owned longer than others, but this is Reckless Girl by Rachel Hawkins. I purchased this, I want to say maybe June or July. I was not yet in like the thick of like I was getting excited about reading, but not like where I'm at now, and I cannot remember for the life of me why I decided to pick this book up, but I tried to start this book and just like couldn't get into it. I maybe got like 20 pages in and I just was not loving it. I don't know, it just did not capture my attention in the first 20 pages. If you've read this book, let me know what you think about it. But it sounds like it's like a girl and her boyfriend, they're on an island, they're possibly in Hawaii, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. She's like she works at a hotel. He comes from money, but like doesn't want to like rely on his parents for money. Somehow they end up on like this stranded island, and then there's like a thriller, like people are eating each other, like there might be cannibalism in this. I don't know, I couldn't get into this, so that's still on my list. I'm not like de-shelving that, I'm not like bringing it to half price books to resell yet, but I don't know about that one. Next up I have Acid for the Children. This is a memoir by someone from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Is it Flea? What is his name? Why am I blanking? The iconic bassist and co-founder of the Red Hot Chili Peppers tells his fascinating origin story, complete with all the dizzying highs and the gutter lows you'd want from an LA street rat. I purchased this quite a while ago when I was really just reading memoirs. I find reading about other people's lives super fascinating, and I love reading about like the dark side of Hollywood, if you will. Like I really want to read the Viper Room, the Last Night in the Viper Room. I love reading just about basically how fucked up Hollywood is. And I started to read, I'm forgetting, Scar Tissue by Anthony Kiedis, someone else in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which is also just like a crazy wild book. And then I purchased this, and I haven't finished either of them, shame on me. But if you guys have read this, or if you have other memoirs or biographies that you recommend, let me know, because I'm always down for a good memoir / biography. And then let's just get all of my like nonfiction books out of the way. So I have this one. This is Story to Tell, and this is a memoir by Richard Marx, and he was a singer-songwriter. His self-titled, you guys are probably like, oh my gosh, how do you not know who this person is? Being discovered as a teenager by Lionel Richie. This is about his life, and it sounded like possibly there was sex, drugs, and rock and roll involved in this, and I was all about it. And actually, I didn't even mean to, but I'm wearing a Hotel California shirt, which I believe is a song by Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? I love Red Hot Chili Peppers, but it's been a while since I've listened to them. Anyway, that is on my list. I also have Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, who is the creator of Nike. I've heard nothing but great things about this, and I really want to read this memoir. Super excited about that. Then I have a couple of other memoir non-fiction books. I have Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen. Stopping the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts. I am someone who has a lot of toxic thoughts on the daily, so I thought this would be potentially and hopefully a good book for me to have in my toolkit and have in my arsenal. And then I also picked up The Middle Finger Project by Ambridge. It says trash your imposter syndrome and live the unfuckable life you deserve. I cannot remember even like where I saw this book or purchased it or why, like where my mind was when I purchased this, but I have that book. And speaking of, I feel like I have a couple other books now that I'm like looking. I'm like, I feel like I have a couple other books just like scattered about that are also on my physical TBR, but it is what it is. We're not including them today because I'm too lazy to go get them. And then the final nonfiction I believe that I have is The Power of Habit by Charles Dyke. I have been wanting to read this book for years. If you guys have not read, do I have it here? No. Atomic Habits by, I don't know why I'm forgetting the author, but that is like one of my favorite nonfiction books ever. It was so impactful, and I've heard nothing but great things about this. I really do need to get into back into like a routine and habit in my day-to-day, so like this book could be super beneficial to me, but I keep putting that one off. So those I believe are all my nonfiction books, and now we can just go left to right. I have by Jamie Brenner, I have Guilt, which I purchased off of the recommendation from Samantha March. She's one of my favorite like beauty YouTubers, but she also is a published author and has a blog where she reviews books, etc. And I believe this was one of her 5-star reads of 2022. This one sounds super interesting. I'm gonna read the little snippet from this. So it says, the Pavlin family built an empire on love. As the first jewelers to sell diamond engagement rings, they started a tradition that has defined the industry ever since. But when an ill-fated publicity stunt pits the 3 Pavilion sisters against one another for a famous family jewel, their bond is broken. No ordinary diamond ring, the electric rose splinters the sisters, leaving one unlucky in love, one escaping to the shores of Cape Cod, and the other ultimately dead. Now, more than a decade later, the only Pavilion granddaughter, Gemma Maybrook, is still reconciling the reality of her mother's death. Left orphaned and cast out by her family after the tragic accident, Gemma is ready to reclaim what should have been hers, the electric rose. And as a budding jewelry designer in her own right, Gemma isn't just planning on recovering her mother's lost memento, she's coming back for everything. I mean, this sounds like a good time, like reading about jewelry and just like, something about that just like really caught my attention. I feel like that sounds like a really fun read. Next up I have Reputation by Sarah Vaughan, and I feel like I just like walked by this in Barnes & Noble and it just looked interesting for me. It's by the author of Anatomy of a Scandal, and I want to say this is about like a politician. It says, it takes a lifetime to build a reputation and just one moment to destroy it. Emma Webster is a respectable politician, devoted mother, and innocent of murder. She is also a liar. There are stories you tell about yourself and those that others choose to believe. This just sounds really fun. I used to love the show. What was the show? She eats popcorn in it all the time. Something about, is it called Scandal? Gosh, that was like probably a decade ago that I like loved that loved that show, and for some reason this gave me like Scandal vibes, so I'm super excited about that one as well. I really haven't heard anyone talk about that one, and I don't know a lot about it. It's not like a super hyped book that I've seen hyped everywhere, so sometimes I like get excited about those because I'm going into it with less expectation, if you will. Next up, I have Rules of Civility. This is just something I found while perusing Barnes & Noble, and it doesn't sound like my normal vibe when it comes to reading, but also for some reason this is a book I couldn't get out of my mind, and I actually left Barnes & Noble without purchasing this and came back to purchase this book. So this is set in 1937 in New York City. It sounds like this 25-year-old girl has a chance encounter with a very handsome banker, and it propels her into this lifelong journey toward the upper echelons of New York City society, where she has little to rely upon other than bracing wit and her own brand of cool nerve. I don't know, like that doesn't give me a whole lot to go off of, but New York City setting, like old time, like jazz, I don't know, something about that like really drew me in. Next up, I have the book The Devil May Dance. This is something I picked up while at, like during a layover of a flight. I was at the airport just like perusing the bookstore, and for some reason, I don't really know, it could have been like the cover, like just people by the pool, because I purchased this like beginning of summer. I also tried to start this book and really could not get into it. I also didn't realize this is written by Jake Tapper, one of like the CNN, like he hosts a CNN show. But this is about a murder that happens in Washington, DC, and it sounds like there's a bunch of like celebrities that are like named dropped in this. I don't know. I read like 3 chapters of this and I couldn't get into it, but we'll see. Next up, this has been a book, this is like one of the books I've owned the longest on this shelf. This is The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman, and honestly, I should be reading this month because this is like magic vibes. This is like the perfect October read. I feel like I've seen great reviews of this. I don't really understand what it's about. It's hundreds of years, it's set in New York City. Like I can get down with that. Let's start. Susanna sets rules for her children: no walking in the moonlight, no red shoes, no wearing black hats. It sounds like a mother who like wants to hide the fact that like her and her daughters have like witchy capabilities. The Rules of Magic takes us on a dreamy, unforgettable journey, both thrilling and exquisite, real and fantastic, reminding us that the only remedy for being human is to be true to yourself. I don't know what this is about. If you've read it, let me know. Next up, this is the only Colleen Hoover book that I currently own. I have not yet fallen into the Colleen Hoover trap, if you will. For some reason, there's like a part of me like blocking myself out from reading anything by Coho. I don't know what it is. I can't get myself to, but I did purchase Layla. I can't remember who I first heard speak about this book, but it sounded like, I don't know why I felt like this would be like my good, like a good first book for me to like step into. I don't know if it's the trigger warnings in the Colleen Hoover books that like have me nervous. I really don't know what it is, but this is Layla, and it almost sounds like a ghostly love story. I don't know. I feel like I own this, and this is like one of those books that I could see sitting on my shelf collecting dust for quite some time. Next up, I have Twisted Love by Anna Huang. This is the first book in the Twisted Love series. I'm super excited to start this series, but I just have so many other books currently on my TBR, but I feel like I've heard nothing but good things. I feel like I've heard like polarizing opinions. Like it seems like you either love or hate the Twisted series. The first book I want to say is a brother's best friend and like his sister falling in love. Sounds like there's good spice in this. Just really sounds like everything I need in a book, so I'm very excited about this. Then this is a recent pickup for me. This is Be Still My Heart, and this is by Emily McIntyre and Sav R. Miller. This I picked up right after finishing Does It Hurt, which took place on like a lighthouse, but like on a deserted island. So I think it could have been like the setting of this that really made me want to read this book, but I did just finish Hooked by Emily McIntyre and loved it. I'm gonna read the back of this one. It says, Skelm Island, Maine has always been known for 2 things, lobsters and its broken lighthouse. But when corpses start showing up in the water, the isolated town becomes the face of a cryptic investigation, at the heart of which stands Lincoln Porter, a grumpy ex-SEAL whose lobstering business seems to attract more dead bodies than fish. When homicide expert detective Sloan is called in to assist with the case, she begins digging up skeletons, ones that Lincoln would rather stay buried. Forced to work together, Sloane's suspicious attitude and optimistic demeanor grate on the lobster man's nerves, resulting in a rivalry that's as addicting as it is volatile. But as everything unravels and they have no one else to trust, Lincoln and Sloane must depend on each other to figure out what secrets should be brought to light and which secrets should stay hidden. I'm super excited about this. This gives me vibes of Does It Hurt by H.G. Carlton. I loved that book. It's one of my new favorites. So I'm very excited about this. It looks like a very thick book, but possibly with big font. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm very excited about this. If you guys have read this, let me know your thoughts. I kind of forgot that I purchased that, but now I'm like, ooh, I really kind of want to read that. I'm very excited about that one. Next up from Lucy Foley, I have The Invitation, which I picked up. So I've read a couple of Lucy Foley books. One I loved, The Paris Apartment. One I really didn't love, which was The Guest List. Didn't love so much. This sounds not similar to either of those at all. Both of those are like mystery thrillers, if you will, but this is about a girl and a guy who like meet basically and have a one-night stand. The girl leaves in the morning and like the guy feels like he's never going to see her again until a year later he receives an invitation to this yacht party, and he runs into the girl that he had this one-night stand with on this yacht party. And it just says it's a sultry love story. It takes place on an Italian coast, so set in Italy. I'm like, yes, please. That's really all I know going into this, but I feel like I looked this one up on Goodreads before purchasing it. I'm not gonna lie, the cover sold me, but I looked it up on Goodreads and I feel like it had pretty decent reviews, so I'm excited about that one. I also have Hot House Flower, which is the second book in the Calloway Sisters series, which is the spin-off of the Addicted Sisters series, and I cannot wait to read about Daisy and Reich's friendship or relationship, whatever is in this book. I'm very excited about it because I've really enjoyed my time in both the Addicted series world as well as the Calloway Sisters series world. Next up, I have Say You Still Love Me by K.A. Tucker. This was just like a random pickup one day in Barnes & Noble, but it sounds like second chance romance. Could be very wrong about that. I'm not very good at describing books, if you guys couldn't tell. I feel like we're 20 minutes in and I apologize for just stating that out loud, but it says on one hand she's a 29-year-old VP at her dad's multi-billion-dollar real estate development firm and living with her two best friends in a swanky downtown penthouse. On the other hand, she constantly has to prove her worth in a male-dominated world. Things get exponentially more complicated for Piper when she runs into Kyle Miller, the handsome new security guard at the Calloway Group, and coincidentally the first love of her life. The guy she hasn't seen or heard from since when they were summer camp counselors together. Ooh, this sounds like a great time. I can't wait to read this. Okay, I have not really dabbled in fantasy at all, so I did pick up the first book in the Six of Crows duology. Sarah Caroli has raved about the duology and I'm very excited yet kind of nervous to read it. For some reason, fantasy just makes me nervous. And then speaking of fantasy, I do also have the first book in the ACOTAR series, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I am also nervous to read this just because, again, I don't know if fantasy is going to work for me, but I do own both of these books. I'm not going to speak too much on those because I'm sure you've seen them everywhere and know about them. All right, and then I have It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This sounds like a really great summer beach read. I feel like I've seen lots of 4- and 5-star reviews. I believe it's Grumpy Sunshine. They're on like a coast, I want to say in Maine, possibly, maybe in Washington. But it's like, I believe like a smaller town, and it sounds like a really cute, cozy romance. And then I also have The Summer of Broken Rules. This is, again, just like sounds like a really good summer beach read. I feel like this has been widely raved about too, so not gonna go in depth on that. I also have The Confidence of Wildflowers. This is the first book in the duology. I have mixed feelings on this one. I'm nervous about this one because I believe cancer is a trigger warning for this, and I am just nervous about that. And I feel like I've seen very polarizing reviews on this book. I believe there's like bullying in this, and then there's like age gap romance, which like doesn't necessarily like draw me away, but I'm just nervous to read this. So you guys will have to let me know if you've read that one and what your thoughts are. And then the final 3 books that I have, I picked up another one off of the Taylor Jenkins Reid backlist that I have to read. This is After I Do, and this is about a husband and wife that are like on the brink of divorce, and they decide to like separate for a year and then come back together to like, they separate to like embark on like a journey of self-discovery, and then they come back together. This is a love story about what happens when love fades. It's about staying in love, seizing love, forsaking love, and committing to love with everything you've got. And above all, After I Do is the story of a couple caught up in old game and searching for a new road to happily ever after. I'm a little bit nervous. One of the older books that I read by TJR, I just like, it was a 3-star read for me, and I feel like I just think everything's gonna be so great from Taylor Jenkins Reid, and then I've been disappointed by some. So I don't know, we'll see. I also have by Christina Lauren, Love in Other Words. I feel like everybody raves about this being just such a cute, cozy romance story. I believe it's Second Chance Lovers, and I'm very excited to read this one. I'm hoping to read this one in November because I've heard everybody say it's like a good, cozy fall romance. And then the final book on my physical TBR is Beartown by Frederick Bachmann. I am very interested in reading more from this author. I didn't realize he has quite a few like highly regarded novels, but I believe this is actually the first book in a 3-part trilogy. So this is Beartown, and to my best understanding, it sounds like there was, so Beartown is like this big hockey town. It's a really tight-knit town, and then something bad happens in the town regarding SA, and it sort of splits the town apart. And it says this is a story about a town and a game, but even more about loyalty, commitment, and the responsibilities of friendship, the people we disappoint even though we love them, and the decisions we make every day that come to define us. In this story of a small forest town, Frederick Bachmann has found the entire world. Hockey town, I am not like super into hockey, but I'm also from Minnesota, so I feel like I should be more of like a hockey lover and hockey fan, and I feel like this is the year for me to like really get into hockey, because I have my Beartown book, I have the Off-Campus series, which is hockey themed, that I'm going to be reading. So this is the year for me to like really grow into my Minnesota roots and really start to love hockey. But I feel like this video is kind of everywhere. If I did a terrible job at talking about these books, I do apologize. But that is everything currently on my physical TBR. I would love to know if you have read any of these books, what your thoughts are. Do you have any recommendations on what you feel like I should maybe like push off reading, or anything that I need to read right away? I would love to know in the comments below, as well as your book recommendations. I'm always excited and looking for great book recommendations. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting my channel, as you guys always do. I love you guys so much, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.